Before we begin, if you've ever sat at someone's bedside praying for just one more moment, this story might feel familiar. Sometimes the words they leave us with are the ones we carry for the rest of our lives. Share yours in the comments. A simple memory, a phrase, a goodbye. It could be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. You know what I realized? I spent most of my life thinking I was only valuable for what I could provide, for what I could build, create, or solve. I thought people kept me around because I was useful, not because I mattered to them as a person. My best friend's death changed that completely, not just because he died, but because of what he said to me in his final moments. Words that made me realize I'd been living my entire life backwards. I want to tell you about those words because they might change how you see yourself and the people around you. See, I've always been the problem solver, the one people came to when they needed something fixed or figured out, and I was good at it. I liked being needed. I liked being the person who had answers, but somewhere along the way, I started believing that's all I was: a tool, a resource, someone people valued for what I could do for them, not for who I was. I measured my worth by my productivity, by how many problems I solved, by how many people I helped, by how useful I was to everyone around me. My friends saw this in me. He saw how I would immediately jump to solving problems when people talked to me, how I would offer advice when they just wanted someone to listen, how I would try to fix things when they just needed someone to care. He saw how I treated relationships like transactions, how I felt like I had to earn people's affection by being valuable to them, how I was terrified that if I stopped being useful, people would stop wanting me around. And he was doing something similar. He was so focused on being a good friend, on being supportive, on being helpful that he forgot to just be himself. We were both performing our value instead of just being valuable as human beings. In his final days, he started talking about this, about how we'd both gotten so caught up in being useful that we'd forgotten how to just be present with each other. What my friend helped me understand is that being needed isn't the same as being loved, and being useful isn't the same as being valued. I thought about all the relationships in my life. How many of them felt transactional? How many conversations started with someone wanting something from me? How rarely people just called to see how I was doing without needing anything in return? I realized I'd trained people to see me this way. I'd made myself so available to solve problems that people forgot I might have problems of my own. I'd made myself so useful that they forgot I might need something, too. My friend told me about times when he'd wanted to share something with me, not a problem to solve, just an experience to share, but he'd held back because he thought I was too busy, too focused on bigger things, too important to care about his small moments. And I thought about all the times I'd done the same thing, all the times I'd kept my struggles to myself because I thought people expected me to have everything figured out. All the times I'd hidden my doubts because I thought people needed me to be strong. We were both so busy being what we thought others needed that we never let them see what we actually needed. My friend made me realize that the loneliest thing in the world isn't being alone. It's being surrounded by people who only see you for what you can do for them, not for who you are. I started thinking about the difference between being appreciated and being loved. Appreciation is about what you do. Love is about who you are. And I'd spent my whole life chasing appreciation while secretly longing for love. But here's what I didn't understand. You can't receive love if you're not willing to be vulnerable. You can't be valued for who you are if you're always hiding behind what you can do. My friend talked about this mask we both wore, the mask of competence. The idea that we always had to have answers, always had to be strong, always had to be the ones helping others rather than needing help ourselves. He told me about times when he'd been struggling but hadn't said anything because he didn't want to burden me. Times when he'd needed support but hadn't asked because he thought I had enough to deal with. Times when he'd felt lost but had pretended to have it all figured out. I realized I'd been doing the same thing. I'd become so identified with being the person who solves problems that I'd forgotten how to be the person who has problems. I'd become so used to being strong for others that I'd forgotten how to be weak for myself. My friend helped me understand that this mask wasn't protecting me. It was isolating me. It was keeping people at arm's length. It was preventing them from seeing the real me and preventing me from receiving the real love and support I needed. He said something that really hit me. You know what the saddest part is? I spent 23 years trying to be worthy of your friendship when all I had to do was be myself. And I realized I'd been doing the same thing. I'd been trying to earn people's love by being perfect, by being useful, by being indispensable. But what I really needed was to be loved for being imperfect, for being human, for being real. My friend made me see that the people who truly matter don't love you because you're useful. They love you because you're you. They don't need you to be perfect. They need you to be present. They don't need you to have all the answers. They need you to be willing to sit with the questions. In his final weeks, my friend started doing something different. He started being completely honest with me about who he was. Not the version of himself he thought I needed, but the real version, the one with fears and doubts and insecurities. At first, it was uncomfortable. I wasn't used to seeing him as anything other than the strong, supportive friend, but then I realized something beautiful was happening. I was finally meeting the real him. He told me about his dreams that he'd never shared, about his fears that he'd never admitted, about his struggles that he'd never revealed, and for the first time in our friendship, I felt like I was seeing him as a complete person rather than just a role he played in my life. My friend helped me understand that being seen, really seen, is one of the most fundamental human needs, not being seen for what you can do, but being seen for who you are, being known, being understood, being accepted for all your complexity. I started thinking about how rarely I let people see the real me, how I compartmentalized myself, showing different people different pieces, but never letting anyone see the whole picture, how I was so afraid of being judged that I never gave anyone the chance to truly know me. My friend made me realize that when you're always performing, you never get to experience genuine connection. When you're always trying to be impressive, you never get to be impressive in the ways that actually matter. He told me about moments when he'd wanted to be vulnerable with me but hadn't, times when he'd wanted to share his struggles but had chosen to be strong instead, times when he'd wanted to ask for help but had chosen to be self-sufficient instead, and I realized I'd been robbing him of the chance to know the real me, too. I'd been so focused on being the person he needed that I'd never let him be the person I needed. My friend started talking about something that really changed how I see relationships. He talked about the difference between being important and mattering. Being important is about your role, your function, your usefulness. Mattering is about your essence, your presence, your humanity. He told me about times in his life when he'd felt important but hadn't felt like he mattered. Times when people had valued what he could do but hadn't valued who he was. Times when he'd been needed but hadn't felt wanted. I started thinking about my own life, about all the times I'd felt important but hadn't felt like I mattered, about all the relationships where I'd been valued for my contributions but not for my character, about all the conversations where people had been interested in what I could do for them but not in who I was. My friend helped me understand that mattering isn't about being impressive or successful or useful. It's about being human. It's about being present. It's about being real. It's about letting people see you and love you for who you are, not what you can do. He told me about the moments in our friendship that had meant the most to him, and they weren't the times when I'd solved his problems or given him advice. They were the times when I'd just been present, times when I'd listened without trying to fix, times when I'd shared my own struggles, times when I'd been real with him. I realized that I'd been focusing on the wrong things. I'd been trying to be valuable when what people really needed was for me to be present. I'd been trying to be helpful when what they really needed was for me to be human. My friend made me see that the deepest gift you can give someone isn't your expertise or your solutions. It's your attention, your presence, your willingness to see them and be seen by them. In his final days, my friend started expressing love in ways he never had before, not just saying, "I love you," but explaining what that love meant, what it was based on, why it mattered. He told me about moments when he'd felt loved by me, and again, they weren't the moments when I'd been most impressive or most successful. They were the moments when I'd been most human, times when I'd been vulnerable, times when I'd been real, times when I'd let him see that I needed him, too. My friend helped me understand that love isn't something you earn, it's something you receive, and you can't receive it if you're not willing to be vulnerable enough to let it in. He talked about how he'd spent so much time trying to be worthy of love that he'd forgotten to simply accept it, how he'd been so focused on proving his value that he'd missed the fact that his value was already recognized. I started thinking about all the love I'd probably missed in my life because I was too busy trying to earn it. All the moments when people had tried to show me they cared about me as a person, not just as a solution to their problems. My friend made me realize that the people who truly love you don't need you to be perfect. They don't need you to have all the answers. They don't need you to be strong all the time. They just need you to be real. He told me about the ways I'd shown him love without even knowing it. Times when I'd remembered something small he'd mentioned. Times when I'd checked in on him just because. Times when I'd been present with him without trying to fix or solve anything. And I realized that love isn't about grand gestures or perfect solutions. It's about small acts of presence and attention. It's about seeing someone and letting them know they're seen. It's about mattering to someone and letting them know they matter to you. And then in his final moments, my friend looked at me with these eyes that were so clear, so peaceful, and he said something that I think about every single day. He said, "Arnold, I need you to know something. You didn't just help me or support me all these years. You made me feel like I was worth something, like I mattered just by being who I was." I couldn't breathe for a second because I'd never thought I mattered to anyone like that. I'd always thought people kept me around because I was useful, not because I was lovable. He continued, "All those times when you just listened, all those times when you remembered things I'd said, all those times when you made time for me, even when you were busy, you made me feel like I wasn't just someone you helped, I was someone you loved." And then he said the words that completely changed how I see relationships. "I want you to know that you matter, not because of what you do or what you build or what you solve. You matter because of who you are, and I need you to make sure the people in your life know that they matter, too." He died an hour later, but those words didn't die with him. They live in me every day. They become the foundation of how I approach every relationship, every conversation, every moment with the people I care about. I realized that I'd been so focused on being useful that I'd forgotten to let people know they were valuable. I'd been so focused on solving problems that I'd forgotten to celebrate the people who shared them with me. My friend's words taught me that the deepest human need isn't to be helped or fixed or solved. It's to be seen, to be known, to be told that you matter. Since that day, I make sure the people close to me know they're not just useful to me, they're loved by me. I tell them what they mean to me. I celebrate who they are, not just what they do. I make sure they know they matter because that's what my friend taught me. That's what his final words gave me. The understanding that the most important thing we can do for each other isn't to solve problems or provide solutions, it's to make each other feel like we matter. And you do matter. Whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're going through, you matter. Not because of what you do or what you achieve or what you provide. You matter because you're you, and I hope someone in your life tells you that today. But here's what I want you to understand about those words. They didn't just change how I see other people, they changed how I see myself. For the first time in my life, I started to believe that I might be worthy of love just for being me, not for what I could build or create or solve, just for being the person I am underneath all of that. It's a strange thing realizing that you've been starving yourself of something you didn't even know you needed. I'd been so focused on earning love that I'd forgotten what it felt like to simply receive it. My friend's words made me realize that I'd been living like I was on trial my entire life, like I had to constantly prove my worth, constantly justify my existence, constantly demonstrate my value. I was exhausted from performing my worthiness instead of just accepting it. Now I wake up every morning and I remember what he said. I remember that I matter, not because of what I'm going to accomplish that day, but because I exist, because I'm here, because I'm human. And I've started treating the people in my life the same way. I tell my team members that they matter to me as people, not just as contributors. I tell my friends that I value them for who they are, not just for what they bring to my life. I tell my family that they're loved unconditionally. You know what I've discovered? When you start treating people like they matter, just for being themselves, they start showing up differently. They become more creative, more open, more willing to take risks. They stop performing and start being real. Because here's the thing, when someone knows they matter to you, regardless of their performance, they're free to perform at their best. When someone knows they're valued for who they are, they're free to become who they're meant to be. My friend's words taught me that the greatest gift we can give someone isn't our expertise or our solutions, it's our recognition of their inherent worth. It's looking at another human being and saying, "You matter, you exist, you're valuable just as you are." I think about him every day. I think about how he spent his life believing he had to earn love just like I did. I think about how much richer our friendship could have been if we'd both understood earlier that we were already worthy of each other's love. But I also think about how his final words became a gift that keeps giving. Every time I tell someone they matter, I'm honoring what he taught me. Every time I show someone they're valued for who they are, I'm carrying forward his legacy. I want to challenge you to do the same. Look at the people in your life, your family, your friends, your colleagues, even strangers you encounter. See them not just for what they can do or provide, but for who they are as human beings. Tell them they matter. Tell them they're valuable. Tell them they're worthy of love just for being themselves. Because in a world that's constantly telling us we need to be more, do more, achieve more to be worthy of love, we all need someone to remind us that we're already enough, we're already worthy, we already matter. My friend's final words saved my life by teaching me this truth. And maybe, just maybe, you can save someone else's life by sharing this truth with them. You matter, they matter, we all matter just for being who we are. Start today, right now. Don't wait for the right moment. Don't wait until someone is gone to tell them what they meant to you. Don't assume they know. Say it. Say, I'm glad you're here. Say, I see you. Say, you matter to me. Because you never know the kind of battle someone is fighting silently. You never know who's barely holding on, who's questioning their worth, who's one kind word away from choosing hope over despair. We walk through this world with masks on, smiling, performing, keeping it all together. But underneath, so many people are hurting. So many are wondering if they'd be missed. So many are just trying to make it through the day without falling apart. What if your voice could be the one that breaks through the noise? What if your presence could be the anchor someone's been praying for? You don't need to have perfect words. You don't need to fix anyone's pain. All you have to do is show up. Be kind. Be real. Be willing to care even when it's uncomfortable. It takes 5 seconds to change someone's day, maybe even their life. 5 seconds to look someone in the eyes and say, you matter, not because of what you do, but because of who you are. That's the power you carry. That's the difference you can make. And here's the truth that changed me forever. You don't need to wait until you're healed or whole or confident to start loving people well. You just have to be willing. Willing to care. Willing to see. Willing to speak life into people who forgot they deserved it. Because love isn't reserved for perfect moments. It's not something you earn after checking enough boxes or becoming someone else. Love is a birthright, and so often we just need to be reminded. So let this be your reminder. You are enough. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are not invisible. You matter, and the world is better because you're in it. If no one has told you that lately, let me be the one who does. And now go be that for someone else. A child, a partner, a parent, a friend, a stranger on the street. Let them know they're seen. Let them know they're loved. Let them know they're not alone. Because one voice, your voice, can cut through years of silence. One moment of honesty can rebuild what pain tried to destroy. And if enough of us start doing that, maybe we create a world that finally feels a little less lonely, a little less hard, a little more human. That's the world I want to live in. And it starts with us, one person, one moment, one truth at a time.